Episode 175 of TRN Unplugged. Today, I'm your host, Jesse Velasquez. Guess what? Normally, we're behind a Patreon paywall. The boss said, no, this one needs to go live on YouTube and Google, Apple, and Spotify. We did not come at you over the weekend. Father's Day, thankfully, interrupted our usual circumstances. So happy belated Father's Day. I know one of you is a father in this group besides myself. And happiest of birthdays as well. We're going to open and close with a happy birthday. Tupac Shakur, my man upstairs, June 16th, 1971. And ironically, I'll get to this in a moment. I'm going to introduce my two people first. Let's start at the bottom. I normally close with you, but Cam Hawkins, Yahoo Uncrowned, how are we?
I'm doing well, man. I'm blessed. I'm exhausted, but exhausted from doing fun stuff. But I absolutely have the energy and the wherewithal to talk some wrestling. So yeah, doing all right.
Yeah, some obscure topics today, which I always pick out. And ironically, Cam, the first time you were on with me was exactly 4 years ago today.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. 4 years ago today. So that's 2021. That is that is right after my first Wale Mania, as a matter of fact. And I just wrote about the 10-year anniversary for PWI. So really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, I need to check that out. And speaking of Wale Mania, we had a veteran up to the right-hand side of me. Also from Yahoo Uncrowned, and your first time with me was in March of 2021. Kel Dansby, Corner Podcast as well. I got to say it because I just listened to a couple episodes the last few days. Missing and reminiscent. How are we?
Man, doing well, man. Doing well. Trust, miss doing it. It was 10 great years of the corner. And I still talk to old man every day. So talking to Andreas every day, we haven't really stopped. Every time we argue back and forth, we're just like, we wish this was on the show still. But we're talking to the powers that be, trying to cook some stuff up. When, I'm at a place like Yahoo and loving it, and he's now at ESPN. And, there's a lot of higher ups that go into these things. But, we're working on the background to kind of bring something back together. But in the meantime, glad to be here joining you. Yeah, our first show together was pandemic. I think we were like 2 weeks into pandemic. I was still in Bristol, or I was in Hartford in my loft with like the breaking stuff. I missed that. Tell you that much. I don't miss the cold ass weather, but I miss that loft. And yeah, man, it's been great. I mean, 4 years flown by. So much has changed in 4 years, but we'll get into it. So much has changed in pro wrestling in 4 years. I think 4 years ago, we were complaining about Vince McMahon and what they were going to do during the empty arena shows and them not shutting down like the other sports. So 4 years, it's a whole different landscape.
It's incredibly wild what has transpired over the last 4 years, and it almost seems like we've been restored to normal in some aspects, and then there are other climates where we're like, what the hell is this, 1945? I really don't understand this at all. So we're going to touch on this first and foremost with the both of you guys, how Yahoo Uncrowned just came to be. Let's start with Cam first, and then we'll roll to Kel. Give me your experiences as well.
It's like Kel probably knows like the real X's and O's. I'll tell you what, it's probably like August. I always have my phone in my hands, like always. So like I look at it, and Ariel starts following me on Twitter. We've had one conversation. I think we were at like a Royal Rumble. I just pulled him aside, like, hey, I'm a big fan of what you do. Just kind of went about my business. So in July of last year, a little bit before that, they were having DreamCon, which is the convention put on by the guys from RDC World, the streamers, the guys who make skits, Mark Phillips and those boys. And I got a message from somebody at Complex asking if I wanted to write a couple of things for them. And I made like a vague tweet about it. And then WWE PR hit my line. And they were like, hey, is this about like a job? I was like, yeah, and I told them what it was. They were like, oh, because somebody else was asking about you recently, and we, put in a good word for you. So then after Ariel starts following me, him and I have a conversation. My man Shaheen, who's my editor over there, have a conversation. And the president of Yahoo Sports calls me, and we're talking on the phone. And they were like, yeah, listen, man, we're starting up a vertical. It's going to be combat sports. We're going to do MMA. We're going to do boxing. We want you to come over there and talk wrestling. So first person I hit, my man Cal Davenport, my editor at The Ringer. And I was like, yo, they want me to come over there and do this. And I was like, I'm a home team guy. I'm a loyalty guy. Like, if this is a problem, tell me it's a problem. We can figure something out. He was like, Cam, you got to go get yours, baby. We can still do stuff over here. So yeah, it was a really, really cool surprise. It was very nice to be recommended by the people I do the work with. And yeah, man, I'm over there, trying to continue to build what I've been doing, at The Ringer, at PW Torch, at PWI. When I was texting Ariel before we even started, I said, I want to humanize the superheroes. I want to write about them like they're people with all the great things that they do, really break down what makes them tick. And he was with me on that. And hey, that's what they let me do over there, man. So it's a very fun thing. And actually, one more thing I'll say, you can't get me started.
Yeah, go.
Like an actual competitive writer's room. And at The Ringer, it was a little different because we were all kind of doing different things. And I was in there with, you got Phil Schneider, who's with us now with Yahoo. The guys who have like, and gosh, I'm gonna mess up his name. He's gonna fight me later. But the guys who have written like the real wrestling books are over there at The Ringer. So I was cool, kind of being little brother doing the different thing. But like at Yahoo, we're in this big Slack all the time, and I got to see everybody write these amazing stories, like this amazing detail. I'm like, yo, I got to pull some shit out. I got to make it happen. But it's very fun. It's a fun, competitive environment. Everybody's kind of doing like their own thing a little bit differently, but I think that as a unit, I think it's one of the strongest teams out there as far as writing about these sports across the board.
My favorite thing about your articles, you mentioned it, is humanizing our superheroes. And we might tap into that at the very end with a topic that I don't think many people talk about that I love. And I'm just really glad I kind of did some research on this to start. So, Kel, give me your background, because I know your social media background. Like, where do you come into play here with Uncrowned?
Yeah, man. I guess it was a little different than Cam's. So Cam is cool, right? They give Cam a heads up. He gets a couple months in the background of these things. No, for me, I've been at Yahoo for a little over a year. After I left ESPN, went to Yahoo Sports. So I was kind of just out of the loop of combat. I went to Yahoo to cover the major 4 sports. So I was doing basketball, NFL, just kind of laying low. When I left ESPN, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. So I went there and I just started doing social and helping the social team out there and just kind of chilling in the background. And then I believe Uncrowned launched October 15th officially. And it was October 8th. And they put a meeting on the books. And in Slack, I'm just in the normal Slack, and they started adding people. And they added people like New York Rick, who hired me at ESPN to, build the ESPN ringside. And, that was when Ariel was there and Rick was in charge of ESPN social in terms of combat. So Rick hired me at ESPN. I was like, oh, I know Rick. And then they added GC over, which is Connor. And I was like, wait, what's going on here? And I text Rick on the side. I was like, you want to tell me anything? And then he just put like 3 smiley faces. And then they added Ariel. And then they're like, hey, we need a meeting. And they brought me into this meeting. And they were just like, so we love what you're doing with Yahoo Sports and part of the team here in terms of social. But yeah, we're moving you. And I was just like, oh, okay. And they're like, so this is what's happening. Ariel's launching next week this thing called Uncrowned. It's a vertical. It's, his show is coming over, all this stuff. We're announcing it today. And we have a live show in Vegas on the 15th. And they're like, oh, yeah, so you're going to run these accounts. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, all right, I did this at ESPN. It can't be too much different. And I was like, yeah, that's fine in terms of social and everything. But I was talking to Ariel on the call. And I was like, I really want to write again. Like this is, I wrote a little bit at ESPN, but they don't have kind of that leeway the same. But I was on the pound for pound panels and everything. It gave me enough to do in terms of bylines. But I was like, I really want to write again. And then he was like, hey, if you do social, you do whatever you want. And I was like, all right, cool. I met with Shaheen after that, and been writing about boxing and pro wrestling with the rest of these guys ever since, while also doing all the social media stuff. Me, Spencer Embry, who's incredible, who does a lot of stuff for Ariel as well, kind of holding down all the social media platforms for Uncrowned. So it's a lot of work there, but making sure all these guys and the amazing stuff they write get to social media and make sure it hits those platforms and people can see it and more eyes on our amazing staff, because we have an amazing staff. And then, writing and being part of that competitive pro wrestling writers room. We do our like predictions every time. And I'm just like, oh man, I can't wait to be the bearer of bad news. Cause I come right in with the hot takes and be like, oh, you guys love this? Okay. Yeah. Let me rain on your parade a little bit. It's weird. It's weird in a great way, because I'm so used to being with Andreas and him being one way and me having to be a different way. And in this space and being able to write and talk with everyone else, it's different, because like I'm the AEW guy kind of on a lot of these articles, and I'm like the New Japan guy, and Cam's always dropping in his stuff, and everyone else is very WWE forgiving, which is great. And it's cool to be in a writer's room with people who have such different perspectives on pro wrestling. Because so many times, even me and Cam were hanging out WrestleMania weekend, and we're doing all the indie shows. We're talking about Cam's talking about regional guys, like regional, like, yo, I saw him here and all this stuff. I'm just like, wow. And it's cool to have people in the writers' room with perspectives of, like I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, but they're following WWE and AEW names are new to them. And they're getting introduced to these things where we may have seen them 10 years ago, right? So it's one of those things to have a room where it's refreshing to not kind of just be a bunch of smarks and nerds about this, right? Because I've been in that atmosphere for so long, and it really helps. That's our audience at Uncrowned. Our audience, half of them, even MMA, because Ariel's that huge voice in MMA, and even boxing, half of them are really knowledgeable and like real, and I say this in the best way, nerds about the sport. Mm-hmm. We're in it. But the other half, being with Yahoo Sports and being a new vertical and introducing this to whole new audiences, these people have no clue what's going on. And they tune in for just WrestleMania or just Royal Rumble. So many people just learned who Joe Hendry was and love him just off of WrestleMania, right? Like Mr. Iguana, like all these weird things. Like we see these things pop up, and that's so much of what we do at Uncrowned is, we have the stuff for us and the diehards, but our writers are so good. They're opening up all of these talents and amazing people to a whole new audience.
I'm going to sprinkle in some things just throughout. I'm going to just throw something out there for the chat. If you guys want to drop any questions or anything throughout the show, I see a lot of you right now, and usually we have a raucous chat. Especially in the United Kingdom, we have a solid United Kingdom following. That this is their time. They're at the pubs. There's a couple of people who have been watching from pubs and said, "I'm drinking a pint of Guinness and I'm watching you guys on the YouTube." So it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yes,
I'll hit the Patreon things later.
A+ for the pub beer, F- for the pub food. Sorry guys, I love you guys, but like I've been to the UK a couple times. Ooh, that keep London
chips,
pub
man.
food.
We don't need that. Nah, we
good. My Vikings play twice in the regular season, once in Dublin and once in Tottenham in UK. I'm leaning towards Dublin because that's the weekend I don't have my son. So a pint of Guinness from Dublin, yes, please.
Yes, and I heard the Irish food might be a little better. You report back. So you let me know.
I will definitely have to. So for the two of you, another question, and Kel, I'll start with you. We'll roll to Cam next. With the Yahoo Crowned Unproject, and over the last, I'd say year and a half, and Cam, especially you, with a lot of just the changes that you have encountered for yourself, what type of like social media landscape, as well as with websites, have you seen any changes in the writer's room and behind the scenes? Because Ryan Drosty here, our normal host, does Bleacher Report after parties for WWE and AEW. He also works for SI. He's an editor there and does pieces as well. So we get a little bit of what's going on backstage and behind the scenes. What have you experienced in the last couple of years?
I mean, in my world of like social media and trying to, tell these stories, it's becoming more difficult, right? Because just like all over the internet, and I'm sure like writers are feeling this, everyone's feeling this. Everyone has a voice, and sometimes that's not good. And the discernment between people who should have a voice or who've earned that voice and those who have just come onto the scene and maybe purchased followers or maybe had one viral post and then now they have a voice, that differential between the two is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. So it becomes a lot tougher. A recent, obviously, way of thinking about this is Carmelo Hayes. And Melo was in the news yesterday because someone made a fake account, which was like one letter off, I believe, of a really popular and accredited wrestling Twitter, and dropped a racial slur on Melo. But before anyone vetted that, knew where it came from, that publication was answering questions like, "Yo, this is how y'all rock." Melo commented and posted like, "Yo, I'm not accepting this." Not even calling out the publication, but just whoever wrote it and created a graphic like that. And now someone who is nameless, faceless on a troll account gets as many impressions and views and has the impact of a wrestling account who built their name for 10 years. And someone faked it and got their entire audience and impact in a day. Right? So that's something where with the change from Twitter to X and a lot of the verified accounts and being able to purchase a verified account and like the way people digest news and the lack of accountability behind some of this news has changed a lot, right? That's why there are platforms, though, which, Ariel putting his stamp on Uncrowned means a lot, because whatever we write, whatever we report, whatever we say, every time I post it on social media, they go, "Ariel, you're crazy. Ariel, how are these your pound for pound rankings? Ariel, what? This is what you think of pro wrestling? Where's this AEW person?" I'm like, bro, who wrote this? I put the people who vote for this. And they're just like, "Yo, Ariel, you're going crazy." So it's like he attaches his entire resume to us because the fans don't care, right? Like there's a huge sect of people online who don't want to verify where it's coming from, if it's true or not, whatever it is. They look at the graphic, they attach it to whoever's name is there, and they rock. Sean Rassap deals with this all the time. SRS is like, "Yo, I didn't report this. Someone just throw his outlet on the back of a fake tweet." And he's going through Twitter and he has to, justify these different things. His name and brand is so huge that even when he does write something and they're like, "You're wrong," it's like, yo, he's going to be wrong sometimes. Like he's getting scoops or stuff changes or all this stuff. And people are relentless with that. So it means a lot for Ariel to stamp us and be like, "Yo, I trust you guys enough that I'm putting my name and my whole brand, my resume behind all of this." And in my eyes, it's like, I ain't gonna mess that shit up. So I spent the past year trying not to mess that shit up because I know how much that means in a space where you need credible outlets. You need credible people because there's so many that aren't.
Completely agree. Cam, what do you think?
I think everything that Kel just said, and as we say it, as Kel was telling that first story, y'all look at our group text. I just put something in there because, again, the world is small. There is a rush to be first on things, and whether it's a true thing or a not true thing, right? Like when we were talking about just getting started with Yahoo, we were talking about, pay scale and types of media and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about like breaking news. And I was like, I'm not going to have any news to break. That's what I told him. I'm not going to have any news to break. Like every once in a while, something might come across my desk. Like the one thing that I had, and she messed it up, and it wasn't her fault she messed it up, but me and Jordan Grace are really cool. So when she signed, I said, when you sign, you got to tell me so that I can put that out in the world, but somebody found out beforehand, right? But what we see a lot of is, if you look at how a lot of these sites are built, a lot of it is I'm going to pay you by click. So when you're working, like hourly is not the right term, right? But when your pay is specifically based off engagement, there's absolutely no way you're giving the best quality of what you can make. And so sometimes you just make stuff up. And that's what you see a lot of. Like you said, you see these fake accounts pop up because they know people will look. And they know that, I put their blue check next to my name, I can get a couple of dollars off that. Even with, some of these new sites that have popped up. Listen, we had, and I think they've worked to fix this, so I don't want to put their name out. But basically, I wrote, it might have been the Jordan Grace interview. They aggregated it and, quoted like half of the thing, but didn't link to it. And it's like, but that's kind of the whole thing. And what I always try to say is, you linking to stuff and including people's name, it helps everybody. Like they're going to click off of your page for sure, but if you are somebody they go to normally, they're going to come back to you to kind of get a cliff notes or something and then read something else later. Like you're literally trying to lessen the thing that I do. And what I do is how you eat. Like, how is that weird? And this place, listen, they literally had a no backlinking policy until last week. Whoever works the numbers decided, hey, it's less beneficial for us to give credit to the people who are actually giving us the content. And so I think one thing that I really appreciate about what we're doing over at Yahoo, it's not, hey, you need 1,000 people to look at this before you can break even. It is a newsroom. This is what we pay you to do the quality work that you do. And to me, that's how it should be. Not everybody's in a position to do that. But like I said, I would put our work up against the work on anybody else's site. You got, a bunch of people in there knowledgeable about what they cover and who give a damn about what they cover. I forget who it was. What was it, like 2 weeks ago? He wrote that thing about the injuries in MMA based off one guy's career, and it's the most fascinating thing. Who's thinking to write that?
Yeah,
it was Ben.
Ben, yeah.
Shout out to Ben, folks, man.
Yeah,
man.
Just
I look at something like that, I'm like, damn, I gotta pick it up. I've been calling my MMA homie who was in UFC for a minute, and I've been trying to reach out to him on Facebook, and I'm like, bro, I got to talk to you because I'm over here dealing with beasts, and I gotta earn my keep. You know what I mean? But like I said, if you go through the last year of what we did, the frequency is not going to be the same because we typically only write once a week per person, right? But you are getting 1,500 of the best words on the internet every time it happens, because we know that we're not even competing with each other, but we're trying to make this thing the thing. And you see it in the quality of work, man. And listen, there's a lot of people who, hey, I'm going to write 4 times a week for this site and they'll take care of me, and maybe they won't, but we got to get this out and blah, blah, blah. To me, those aren't the type of places I visit or frequent. That's not how I want my information. I like the research. I like the breakdown. Yes. I like the references. And we are one of the few places doing that and dedicated to really doing that. And I'd love, again, everybody's not in a position to do it, but man, to me, this is how the thing should work.
Yeah, context is absolutely king, and people will take a headline or two and just spin it any way they want to. They won't give you the credit, like you mentioned. And Kel, I'm going to throw this to you because you're a social media expert for sure. Trying to find the appropriate headline that can also, it can heighten an interview like you would like it to, but it can maybe not necessarily discredit the work, yet it will take some of the shine off the work. How do you blend those things together when you're trying to put a headline up, if that's your jurisdiction?
Yeah. Social media is such a unique place because you have to be half editor, half writer, half producer, right? It's one of these things where you have to do all of that in a very small amount of time. So I would like to say there's like a blueprint behind it. And anyone who's looking to make a transition, because again, I was a journalist, right? I was writing all the time. I had the pod, but I was writing. And then the opportunities became less and less in terms of traditional journalism. And I made the pivot early into social media and learned how to tell stories through the lens of social media. So less characters, more video editing, but I can tell the same stories with a pen that I can with my two thumbs on my phone. And anyone looking to make that transition, the key is reps, right? Like there is no magic headline. Just like when you're writing an article, it's like, yo, why did this article blow up and this one didn't? Why did Google choose this? And you could be like, it's SEO, it's all this stuff. You could do SEO perfect every time. It ain't gonna hit. It just really not. The key is reps, and then knowing, and Cam touched on this, and I see this, and I don't got to call anyone out specifically, but I've worked a lot of places in the background of social media. If this was hip hop, I'm like Kanye's ghostwriters, right? Like I've done a lot in the background or a lot of places. Thank you to everywhere. They pay me quite well. But as a social media person, they bring me in to kind of fix things. And I've done this a lot of places now, especially since leaving ESPN. And a lot of places hire people for social media and then now even for writing that don't know the sport and don't really care. So it helps when you know what's going on to pull those quotes, to have discernment on what works, what doesn't, what goes too far, what is valuable for your audience, and what is quote unquote clickbait, right? The job of social media is to start a discussion. That's it. If you want the base level of it, it is to start a discussion. If you're doing social media and your content does not start a discussion, stop, reevaluate, and get better. And that's if you have a podcast, you're trying to put out clips, you're trying to do anything. Everything you put out should say, is this a question that can be answered coming back? Is someone going to watch this and then ask me a question? Are they going to ask their friend a question? Am I creating a conversation? And that's what you want when you're pulling these headlines or these quotes or anything and you're putting it out is, does this start a conversation? And it's not my job to tell you how to feel. That's not social media. That's not good writing. My job is to present all this and for you then to ask others or to ask me how to feel. That is the conversation. That's how we get shares, engagements. That's how you get views. That's how you go viral, is you create a conversation. People do stupid TikTok dances. And the reason those go viral is because the conversation is, can I do this dance? Hey, Ma, can you do this with me? Hey, friends, can we do this better than them? Now you're creating a conversation. You're creating a question. And they want to see if they can do it. And they want to see where they can do it. Oh, this location will be dope for this. You're creating a conversation. That's how you go viral. That's social media. So a lot of people don't know what their subject is. A lot of people can just take a quote, put it on the template, put it out. And they have no clue what wrestling is, what boxing is, what UFC is, who they're talking about. I can tell anyone, yo, post this Cam quote of Jordan Grace from the interview and put it up. And it's like, okay, but all right, but what story are we telling? Do you know that Jordan Grace transformed her entire body to get to this moment? Do you know where she started? Do you understand that her husband's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world? And their training together allows her to get exponentially better in the ring. What their relationship is like. Her going to WWE before him when he was literally an indie darling. Cam tells all these stories within here. So that's how we know what to grab, because we know as pro wrestling fans what is enticing. We know these characters. We know the sport. And a lot of people don't. And they'll just gloss over and it comes across in the work, in the post. And that's like the biggest problem now. Like they'll just be like, yo, quote unquote, you're a 23-year-old kid. We could pay you $20,000. Just read and regurgitate. Just go. Now there's AI. So sorry, 23-year-old kids. There's a lot of programs that'll just do that. But the real quality, the stuff on social, the reason I get paid, the reason why things are growing, the reason why I think impression-wise, Uncrowned is like top 5 fastest growing accounts across platforms in sports is because we can tell these stories. Is because I know what to take. I know these sports. I live, breathe, and die pro wrestling, boxing, MMA. Those 5 TVs get work put in on the weekends. I watch everything. So there's people that need to be that committed. And that's really the difference is, if you know it and you love it, stuff will turn out well.
Attention to detail is absolutely everything in this space. And that's conversation starters, of course, are going to tie into that. So, and that's a big reason why like certain things will hit the spot, and then other times just like, oh nope, conversation just wasn't deep enough, and they'll look at your name. And Cam, this is an example, like someone that you just mentioned it about Jordan Grace. They'll look at your name, they'll take the context out of it, not give you credit for it, but because your work is so good and it started that conversation, it just hits completely different wavelengths, and how it's interpreted is up to the person.
Yeah, we when I wrote about Jey Uso right before WrestleMania, and this is the second time. My first time I wrote about him was going into War Games year before last. That was for the Ringer. And so I tell you what, this is why Kel has a job and I don't. If you ever had to look at like the back and forth between me and Shaheen or me and Cal when we try to come up with like the headlines or the titles, mine is always some off the wall, I think I'm so clever, like avant-garde type stuff, right? And they're like, nah, we need to hone that in a little bit. So what was the conversation around Jey Uso on social media for like the last year, right? The conversation was, well, I don't think he's good in the ring, and he's the Yeet Man, and once the entrance is done, blah, 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 blah. And my pushback the entire time was, I was like, guys, I hear what you're saying, but the thing that makes pro wrestling work is the things that he's exceeding at. People come to see him. They buy the merchandise. They're excited when he wins. They're sad when he loses. Like at its basis level, that's what it is, right? So we had this really cool conversation about how different things are for him. How, him and his brother, before they really took off post. I've done this with Jay. I told him the first time we talked. When American Alpha showed up to the main roster, something clicked with y'all. Like y'all were like, okay, like we gotta reestablish ourselves as the guys around here. It changed a lot. But he was like, me and my brother used to do these autograph signings and nobody would show up. We sit there all night. He's like, now I do them and I gotta stay late because that line is out the door. But the biggest thing he said, I'm an arena shaker now, bro. I'm an arena shaker. And he tells me this story that I actually got to tell these guys the Monday after WrestleMania. But he tells me this story about how, he was kind of going against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory going into WrestleMania. And he said, I think Theory thought he got vertigo. And he was like, yo, like I'm having trouble standing. Like I'm kind of like feeling crazy. What's going on? And he was like, oh, I realized that's the crowd being so loud and making the floor so unstable. That's what that is. And so, again, with the conversation around the first people who are going to read these things being what he isn't, they went with that quote to open the article. I'm an arena shaker now, bro, because like Kel said, the job of it is to make you think, to make you talk, and in some places, question what it is you've been thinking. So whether you were a big fan or not a big fan, the thing that he told you is absolutely true. What is the story around that? How has that affected everything else? And yeah, it was, listen, again, it's not what I would have named it. Like, my first thing at the Ringer was Ricky Starks, the Sound and the Fury, and I was quoting Faulkner all through it because I'm that guy, right? And then like Sting rounds the bases because Sting carries a baseball bat and he's finally getting to go home the right way. That's me. But no, that's why they give guys like Kel all the big money because they hone that in. But again, the Jay thing was perfect in that I'm an arena shaker because it was a thing that you have to embrace to understand his full story. I love how with Jordan Grace, we were talking about how her thing is she doesn't have a problem being a cog in the machine. She wants to get the best out of who's across from her because she's been a locker room leader. And that's what's ingrained in her. Like, these are the important things. You know what I mean? Like, Jordan Grace can bench 300 pounds. Great. We can kind of see it. What does that really mean? But now we kind of have a feel for like who she is and who she wants to be. I think, listen, I can get a bit out there. They've done a great job at honing me in, but I do think they picked the right quotes to build off of almost every single time. And it's worked out for us. It really has.
Let's tie in Jordan Grace with this same subject that is the lead headline, and that what we have are double standards potentially, where let's use AEW as an example with Pentagon, Rey Fenix, Malachi Black, Rusev, Andrade. They have all bypassed NXT. Some of them, this is their second run, and they've gone immediately to the WWE main roster. Whereas the women will use Julia, Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vakir, Jordan Grace, and now Mariah May, or formerly known as, she is now headed to, or she is in NXT, known as Blake Monroe. If you guys want to comment on that name change, we can do that too. Is there a double standard with women not bypassing NXT when they're ready to? Jade Cargill being the only exception. Is there a double standard here with men and women going up? Because Mariah and Jordan both, I feel, could easily be thrown out of the main roster right now and not get lost. Let's start with Cam first.
I mean, my closest friend in wrestling was North American champion 2 weeks ago. So, like, It's kind of, from what I understand, watching it over the last few years, there's not a science to it all, right? Because I think that there's a good argument that Braun Breaker was down there too long, that Mello was down there too long, that Trick might still be down there too long. Like, there's an argument to be made. But I don't know if I'm qualified to say whether there's a double standard or not. That is something I'll probably run through a few people who might have a bit more insight. But I will say this. Sometimes there's just a log jam. You know what I mean? Like, I think, look at what Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch have done. Like, we finally know who Lyra Valkyria is. Finally. And it didn't take her. We didn't know after she won the title. We knew after Becky went in there and said, she's great. Y'all need to see she's great. I can bring that out of her. You know what I mean? So just from my point of view, it's not that there's a double standard with that. It's that they don't got something for everybody. I am not anti-fantasy booking. I think just people talk too much. But I do think that, like, again, look at Mello. That's my guy, right? Mello probably could have been U.S. champion 5 times over. And they're still trying to figure out what to do with him, right? I just think that while it's not a perfect science, me personally, I'd rather you do cool stuff in NXT than being catering on Friday nights.
No, I mean, listen, Cam's diplomatic. I like Cam.
I was at real quick. I was on PWI podcast on Friday talking about a piece I just wrote about Wale Mania, and they asked me something. Jesse, can I cuss on here?
You most certainly can.
They asked me something. They're trying to fuck up my media credentials, asking me these questions because I gotta go talk to these people in the morning. But yeah, okay. I'm diplomatic, really. Yeah.
Listen, I got like 3 friends in wrestling, and they know I'm wild. So, listen, I fantasy book. I do everything. The non-diplomatic answer is there's not a double standard. There's a financial standard. And it's just the truth. They push more men on the main roster than women. They have more time slots for men on the main roster than women. They have more PLE matches for men on the main roster than women. So you can bring more male talent into the main roster because in their mind, that makes more money and they give more slots to them. So when Penta comes in, there's time for Penta. When Rey Fenix comes in, there's time for him. Malachi is back. There's time for him, right? Like maybe it's not top of the card where everyone wants someone when they come back. Rusev is back. They're figuring out there's programs for these people, whether you like it or not, and we'll see, and other people go up and down the card, but there's time for these people. For the women, Julia, Stephanie Vakir, they're amazing in ring. Where's the time? Because the women's tag team titles barely are defended. I don't know where they are. I couldn't tell you the champs are right now. Right? So we have the IC program was great. It got a lot more time when Becky was in it because she's Becky. The US title, I think Chelsea Green's amazing. She got TV time because she was good, but still probably not the TV time she deserves for as good as she was. And then now there's less TV time even for the United States Championship, right? Like the women just have a lot less time on the program, so a lot less spots. So they go to NXT, where we've seen they get as much time as the men, if not more. And that's just because the way that financials work, NXT is under a lot less pressure to make a lot less money. The fact that they're making money in NXT is amazing. They're just happy to be making money. So you can kind of experiment, give people time, characters time to build. There's Evolve now, so it moved those people down a notch. And you really have time to build out these characters and get the world familiar with them. And also where they came from. Like coming from AEW is a vast difference than coming from, Stardom or, in Mexico. There's a lot different going on there. TNA now is more of a presence, but Jordan came from TNA. Like AJ Styles, came in. Samoa Joe. Those are like two TNA guys. That's it. Like if you come straight from TNA, it's not like you're going main roster. Like Bobby Roode went to NXT. There's a lot of these things, right? So it's also where you come from. Jade Cargill is the exception because she came from AEW. She's on TV every day. Mariah May probably could have came over and went straight to the main roster, but it's Tiffy time. And those characters are very similar. Yeah. So if Tiffany Stratton wasn't there, Mariah May's probably on the main roster immediately. But now you got to fledge out why is her character different than Tiffy, which is different than Charlotte Flair, which is different. Like, you have to build out different characters here. And so starting NXT, when it just got cleared out of all these phenomenal women, not a bad thing. Let her run through NXT, right? And for those reasons, you can justify it. The other aspect of financials there it's much closer between, and I'm not saying it's identical, but, it's much closer between what women get paid on the main roster as their floor and what you get paid in NXT. So it doesn't matter where you go.
Good.
Paying Penta what Penta deserves and putting him in NXT is a vast difference in paycheck.
And that Nakamura deal. Like, wait a minute. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Right? Like, it's a long way to be like, yo, we're paying you all this money and we're going to put you in NXT. Like, the men's deals, the disparity is just huge. So to pay all these people, to pay Rusev coming back, what Rusev commands, because a lot of these people were there already. Aleister Black coming back and what he commands versus someone just coming into WWE, maybe like a Ricky Starks, where it's like, okay, we're not matching your previous contract when you were here, bro. Like, we're giving you what you're giving you. And then, you're getting paid more than NXT people, but we can justify putting you in NXT, right? We see the same thing with Ethan Page. Like, Ethan, you're great, but you could still kind of rock in NXT because you weren't here before.
Right.
Like, we gave you a good contract, but it's justifiable to have you in NXT. Because you kind of balance out there. Penta, you weren't here before, but we're paying you like a superstar. Like, you have theme nights with the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. Like, we're giving you dough. We can't put you down in NXT. But for women, Jordan Grace, Stephanie Vakir, all this stuff, we're not paying you high 6 figures, 7-figure salary. Like, we can put you in NXT and we're not killing our bottom line. So that's the disparity. It's a pay disparity. It's a financial disparity. And it's a time slot disparity. The more you pay people, the more you got to use them. That's why we see people getting cut at a clip. And it's not that some people are bad. I think Braun Strowman fit the WWE very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Baron Corbin was phenomenal in the WWE. It came to the point of how much are we using them versus how much are we paying them. And Corbin went down to NXT and it was like, yo, Corbin's great down here. Him and Braun did amazing work.
There. He brought
him and
where Braun Breaker is right now, a lot of that credit goes to Baron Corbin. We did him with Ringer. We did Braun Breaker, and he talked about how much fun he had with Baron Corbin and how he really helped him like flesh out and add color to his personality. So yeah, absolutely.
It's just, but at that point, it's like we're paying him a lot of money being NXT. And it's just like sooner or later, you gotta they cut those things, right? It's all finances. How much are we using versus how much are we paying? And you could justify paying people to stay in NXT when they don't make as much. And the sad reality is the women don't make as much as the men. So they can be in NXT for longer periods of time. They can start in NXT. You're not breaking your bottom line.
Like you
the
said,
men cannot.
Yeah, like Jesse was saying though, like, you know, could they listen? Everybody knows Jordan Grace is talented enough. Everybody knows Mariah May is talented enough. Roxanne, years. We're gonna call her a prodigy forever because it's like how is this good? You know,
Yeah.
She just there's so much talent down there, but we got shows that have 2-hour shows with one women's match on the card, 3-hour shows with one women's match on the card, you know, and so they would just be there. They would just be there. And like I was saying, that could actually hurt them on the back end, being up there, getting that check, and we haven't done anything with you through no fault of yours. But hey, man, it's like, you know, I graduated from where I graduated from. Listen, Arch making a lot of money that the school is not having to pay him. If the school was having to pay him that money, it might be a problem. It might be an issue.
My man would have been on the field in that playoff game. I will tell you this one. If it was coming out of their pockets.
Seriously. Absolutely. So, yeah, a lot of that does go into it for sure.
So Isla Dawn, Kaylee Williams being an example, exceptional talents that I believe Kaylee's gone or injured, I know, but there have been a lot of talent let go. So Kelly, I agree with 90% of what you said. The bottom dollar, which is huge, by the way, that I did not know this, that main roster and NXT women get paid comparable. That is very important, I think, especially this discussion, whereas the men, it's a completely different pay scale. Just the San Francisco 49ers, yeah, George Kittle's been pushing Penta merch since like 2019, 2020. He's been on the radar for a long time. My only pushback with Mariah May is I think she's special enough to get that Jade Cargill treatment. You could easily throw her on the Raw side of things, away from Charlotte and Tiffany, and distinguish her character. You could have kept down a Julia, and then your choice of either Stephanie Vaquer or Roxanne Perez. Promote one of them. Mariah, in my eyes, is just, she's good enough. She just came off of the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest women's feud in the history of professional wrestling with Toni Storm. Toni Storm is she's getting very, very close to talking like all-time best woman. Again, this is an opinion here too.
Her 2024. One of the when I wrote the very best wrestlers book this year, she was the first name I had to have in there. Like, yeah, no. Like her, that is an MVP season. That is an all-time season. Her 2024. She is locked in and she is dedicated. And who knew, right? Who knew? And listen, it's like everybody else in wrestling. You're only as good as the person across from you, and they found the perfect foil. Absolutely.
It's funny because that's all character based.
Yeah.
So
it is.
If you look at her matches, the first one when she went to Timeless, they had her pull like something out of the back of her trunks, and the finish was like pulling out the back of her trunk. It got stuck. It was very clunky. She hits it like she had 3 stinker of matches in a row as Timeless Toni Storm. Again, it's who you're wrestling, right? But then Mariah May is a great foil. We're about to see Mercedes, where you give her better people in ring, and then she's making magic, right? And I've always been of the belief that what you do between the bells is great, but that's the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
People view it opposite. They think what you are between the bells is the cake, and promos and feuds and your character is the icing. No. Because you look 30 years ago, people remember feuds. They remember promos. Like, Give me 3. You go to casual, give me the best 3 Rock matches. I don't know, Rock Austin, Rock Hogan. Like, they're like none of them 5-star matches. Right? Like, who cares? And it shows where you're like Tony Storm is reaching like all-time status. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Because I think Tony Storm has 2 5-star matches. Like, objectively, not even on a Meltzer scale.
Maybe
just
one.
Objectively, maybe one. And they're both like hardcore, just bleeding everywhere matches. They're not like Daniel Bryan, like technical. Like, she's not Ospreying it, right? Like, it's storytelling in these matches. The feuds made you feel something. Her and Mariah made you feel something. Everyone knows I'm a Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné mark. So when we come to like the greatest all time, I still think like she's probably number one. There's women in the 90s who are phenomenal. Right. But you're getting to the point of like, Asuka's great. Her run is, kind of in Japan is amazing. She's a top 5 talent of all time. There's something different about Mercedes. And I can't wait to see what these two do together. It was an amazing year by Toni Storm. One of the greatest gimmicks I've seen, in the women's side of things, just phenomenal. Her turning it on and off, her improv with it, she's just a different level. And Mariah May coming off of that, as weird as it sounds, straight to the main roster, would have been so much pressure on her. And now you're expecting her to go from that to an entirely new roster, a new debut, getting her character over, and her first feud kind of has to be a banger. And that's somewhat unfair. So I don't mind starting in NXT. You kind of, it's weird to say, but you kind of got to cool her off.
Yeah, because we're also like, as much as they want the best talent in the world, it would have been a kind of affirmation for AEW if they immediately put her there. And one of their goals kind of seems to be not to affirm AEW. And so, even though he was off TV for a long time, the last thing Rick did in AEW was tear it up with Bryan and Punk. Like, he was the top heel on the Cool Show, and they had to switch it up. You know what I mean? And somebody said, I'm looking at the comments. Okay, Rock's very best.
I'm going to highlight
it. WWE is
the other one.
Rock's very best match in WWE is the triple threat with Angle and The Undertaker. That is his best match. If you go look at that, they were tearing it up. That is before. Just
is that early 2000, late 2000?
It was like 2002, somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
Rock's at his probably athletic peak. Undertaker is doing the good wrestling, and Kurt Angle is Kurt Angle. I really like WrestleMania 17, but the way it ended, I think maybe if you're a Stars guy, maybe takes a bit away from it. But go look at that. I think it was at No Mercy, triple threat for the undisputed title. They tore it up.
WrestleMania 17, 5 stars. Like, I don't knock the opinion. Like, TJ says, he's a between the bells guy, and I like that.
I am too.
If Rock had to have one, I'm not mad, because the scale of WrestleMania and everything, and breaking it out and the story behind it. Again, a lot of it's an emotion thing to me for 5-star matches. Like, how did it make you feel? Not just like the moves in it. So I can't knock that at all, but it's still one of those things where it's like, bro, if we're talking about The Rock, Austin, we're not talking about 5-star matches. We're
You
not
are,
talking about
if you go to YouTube, you're looking for the time he put the fake voice thing to his throat and was making fun of Kane, or you're looking for the church slide people's elbow. And again, you like you said, TJ, you're not wrong, but thinking about the grand scale of actually, I prefer the WrestleMania 19 match because I love Hollywood Rock. I love Hollywood Rock. He's a ridiculous
Rock Austin. Like you're looking up promo. Like you're going to my way. Like I'm listening to Limp Bizkit. Like that's
silly conversations about like, is The Rock black?
Yeah.
So Chris Rock said, and I'm just kind of paraphrase, but The Rock showed he was one of those when he turned into Hollywood Rock because he was doing a lot of that stuff. That made me know. Yeah.
That's like it was so. It's just funny to me because I appreciate a good, between the bells. I think Ospreay's incredible. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best wrestlers of all time already. Mm-hmm. I'll watch Okada Omega. I'm gonna watch it again here in a couple of weeks. But I'll watch Okada Omega 1 through 4, and I thought it was the best series of in-ring wrestling I've ever seen in my life. I don't think anything's been better since. I don't think anything was better before. But if you told me that Okada Omega is the best feud of all time, I'd have pause. And I think the feud is amazing.
I would too.
The storytelling was incredible. It's just also like, is it the best feud of all time? Because if it was just in ring, it probably should be, but it's not. It's just it's not like it's not Flair Dusty. It's not some of these other things. In
year 20 or whatever, I think Ricochet is doing the best work of his career because 100%. Not only are you hyper athletic, you're a crazy person now, and it comes out before your matches, after your matches, and during your matches. Yeah, so again, we can all look at this thing a little bit differently, and of course, what's in the ring is so important. But the things that he's added that have very little to do with how fast he runs or how high he jumps or how much he bench presses have made him the best I've ever seen. So yeah,
I would ask someone, TJ as well, but anyone in the chat and Jesse, like 20 years from now, if someone says this is an era, right? We're living in an era, 2020 through 2025. This era, we've had amazing matches. You go 2015 through 2025. You want to put 10 years on it. 20 years from now, if they say, what defined this era? One thing in pro wrestling, what are you going to say? If you don't say the bloodline, I'm looking at you crazy. This is the bloodline era. It is. And it's Roman, it's Jay, it's Sammy Uso, it's Owens, it's, Cody coming over, it's Cody finishing the story. It is the bloodline era. 20 years from now, if they say one thing about this past 10 years, it's the bloodline. It's Shield bloodline. It runs right into each other. You forget some of the stupid stuff in between, but it was the breakup of the Shield in like 2015 through the end of the bloodline in 2025 with Rollins, the cash in, what that did to Roman, creating the tribal chief, all these things, Mox leaving, creating and helping AEW, which then helps Cody become a superstar, and Cody comes back for the bloodline. It's literally that chair shot in 2015 started all of this, and then it ended with the bloodline and Cody finishing the story. You can trace that. That is this 10 years, and none of it has to do with what happened in the ring.
The two best matches of probably the whole bloodline run are what? Roman and Jay in Hell in a Cell, and then the Usos versus Sammy and KO.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, they're not even one of the best matches of all of this did not involve the main guy or his main foil, whether you think that's Seth or whether you think that's Cody.
Yeah.
It was emotion. It was feeling. It was getting in the middle of that ring on Friday and talking that talk. Yeah.
And 20 years from now, listen, that includes Okada Omega. That includes Omega Ospreay. That includes Danielson on this retirement run. That includes Swerve Hangman. That includes so many great things. AEW, New Japan, amazing matches, 5 stars all over the place. The Bucks and all their tag matches, which to me, the Bucks versus Golden Lovers is probably the best tag team match I've ever seen in my life.
One of my favorites too.
It includes all of that. And when someone asks 20 years from now, this was about the bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Shield bloodline. That's it. Like the storytelling trumps all of that. When you talk to errors, when you talk about remembering things, kids will remember the phrase yeet 20 years from now before they can tell you everything that happened in, I don't know, Danielson versus Ospreay, which is an amazing 5-star match from a year ago.
Right.
And then you'd be like, yo, how was that? Oh, I think it was good. Yo, what was the sequence? Ooh. I don't know. Yo, remember that Jey Uso? Yeet. They'll do that immediately.
Go right into it. Yep.
Yo, like that will be remembered first. And that's just pro wrestling. But Cam said it earlier. That is the crux of pro wrestling. Do you put butts in seats? Do you want to cheer? Do you want to boo? What does it make you feel? That's pro wrestling. The nuances after that is what makes, small differences and makes people great. But if you don't feel something first, boy, you in a world of hurt. So shout out to AEW, by the way, for actually learning this and leaning into that this year, because their stories this year are phenomenal. Swerve's been killing it. Ospreay's been killing it story-wise. MJF being in the
MVP gear.
Yo,
how do you not love that?
Oh, Tony Storm. Yeah. The stories they are telling right now are matching the in-ring. Mm-hmm. And it's like, thank God. That's all we've been asking for. The in-ring's always been great. Just make us care.
I'll jump into Austin and Rock, which we dissected on a Patreon episode. This is probably the perfect time to jump into the Patreon piece, but we said that it was just a hair shy of 5 because of the ending, which Cam mentioned, because Steve Austin going heel started a little bit of a downturn in business for World Wrestling Entertainment. So you can't really match that. Kel, yes, I think the answer is the bloodline for the last 10 years. And I'm going to highlight this comment from John. The general population is definitely going to say the bloodline and Roman Reigns. We 100% agree there. He said, just like nobody says it's Ricky Steamboat or Minami Toyota in the 80s, Kurt Angle's TNA run, or Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness in the 2000s. So for someone like me, it's difficult because I think we got till the end of this year, we could be talking about Hangman Page.
Yeah.
At least in the top 4 stories with the bloodline, amongst other things, the Shield to the bloodline. Because Hangman's career arc from 2019 when AEW started to where we're going now, becoming that main character. And I feel he's been the main character for the last probably 3-4 years in AEW. That could upstart an uptick in business. And this is probably the best story told in AEW is Hangman Page at the moment. With Tony Storm and Mariah May, I think almost apples and oranges being right there. So it's just going to depend on your general population outlook, and it's going to depend on like your true nerds like us, the answers. But yes, baseline answer is Bloodline Roman Reigns.
They got his peers will tell you he's the main character of AEW. And with no jealousy in their heart. They understand how people react to him, how they feel about him. Again, that perfect foil. Him and Swerve both being top baby faces, but having all the reasons to hate each other. You don't always get it right. Nobody always gets it right. For the most part, 9 out of 10 times with him, they've hit the right notes. And when he finally breaks through, I think it's going to be a big deal for them.
That's my problem. And
again,
not to rain on people's parades.
Love it.
But Cam did
it. He's wearing a hoodie. He loves wearing it on parades.
Hot takes, Kel Dansby. We always love hot takes, Kel Dansby.
The hot takes are flowing. No, but that's the problem, is that Cam said when he breaks through.
Yeah.
This has been the guy, the storyline, the heartbeat of your company since 2019. We're 6 years deep, and we're saying when he breaks through. Yeah. Sooner or later, your company has a problem building stars. And that matters. You're not New Japan. You're not ROH. You're on TV every day. You're on Max. You have major deals. You're in the big boys of pro wrestling. And sooner or later, when your number one competition, even though I don't like to say they're chasing each other, but It's the same. When that other company is putting people in movies, making people stars, putting people on runways, making people household names, you have to do some of that.
Yeah.
Like at a level, right? Like Swerve is great. And I know Swerve, amazing guy.
Mm-hmm.
Swerve does a lot of that on his own.
Yeah.
And we're just calling a spade a spade. Like they didn't give him the Iverson deal. Swerve gave himself the Iverson deal, right? You know, like if you want to make yourself a star, MJF, who is in the Adam Sandler movie coming up, like all over the trailer. I don't think they put MJF there, right? Like if I have a sneaky suspicion, I think MJF put himself there and he's trying to make himself a star. And, you know, when he took his ball and went home and he hopped the jet and all that stuff, that was part of the problem. Amazing storyline they built into that. It's one of those things where it's like, you have to, if these are your guys, they have to be stars. They have to be household names somewhere and transcend pro wrestling. It's the only way your company is going to grow. It's the only thing that's best for business. That's how you stay around. And I'm not sure Tony cares to make people household names. To me, Tony got a lot of Dana White in him. Tony is like, yo, this is about the UFC. This is about the Shield. AEW is going to be the star here. And now the UFC, you look up, there's no Conor McGregor's, there's no Ronda Rousey's, and they're looking around like, well, shit, we have a star problem. We got to put butts in seats. We got to do pay-per-views. And they've leaned into a different star. Their stars have now become Dana White.
They got a superstar. They won't
their
stop
biggest
showing
star,
them on my TV.
Yes, their biggest star is in the Oval Office. So right, because they couldn't create other stars, and they leveraged his fan base, and they needed that because they had no stars. And to sell tickets and to show someone and to sell pay-per-views, they leveraged a star. And that guy's a star. Feel however you want. That guy's a star. And they made him their star because they don't have homegrown ones. AEW's dangerously teetering on that because Mercedes Moné is a great name. She's a great wrestler. Her star power is not what it was at Sasha Banks. Not even. You couldn't maintain the star power. It diminished. And Swerve is a star. He's kind of making himself that. He's crossing over. He's going on a Breakfast Club. Great. You got one. You got to start making people stars.
Also,
yeah, let's hit it.
If we can pull that curtain back a little bit, the top guys don't want to talk to nobody, and you gotta make the decision as the people in charge. We need you guys to do media, traditional media, like it's. Part of it, I think, is a symptom of really having a one-day-a-week show to where they're either at home or they're pulling up to the show. They're not really kind of moving around like that. But they got a problem with you should know more about Hangman. You should know more about Kenny Omega and what he's been up to. You should know more about what the Bucks are doing. You should know more about what Jon Moxley's doing. You should know that. Don't think that, and again, we are a team, but I remember I had a guy who, there's always a guy. Why doesn't, and this is with The Ringer, why doesn't The Ringer cover AEW more? And I was like, the first thing I did was Ricky Starks, and then Tony Storm, and then Dax, and the Dax down. I love that. But it was, and then Danielson. And there was a lot of stuff. But it's like, hey, listen, man, it doesn't seem to be an obligation to exist outside of Wednesday nights. And I think that if I was the man up there, I say, look, man, if we got to write this into a contract and maybe we put a little bit of extra bread in your pocket, but this should be standard because it's standard everywhere else. Everywhere else. Like, no, he's a bad example because I wouldn't want to talk to Aaron Rodgers. But imagine if Josh Allen was like, nah, not going to talk to nobody. Or Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. And what that does to a fan base and their ability to be more. You know what I mean? And again, it's love over there. I got a problem with nobody, but I think that, like you said, you're in the business of building stars. One way you build stars is your stars talking to people who are responsible for creating the narratives in the news. You know?
I'll take 30 seconds quick, Kel, and then I'm going to send it to you. I think the only two that have attempted to do this mainstream media-wise are Swerve and MJF. I noticed when both of them were world heavyweight champions, AEW was in the news a little bit more because they were going on like the bar stools. And Swerve, you mentioned the Breakfast Club. They were doing what they could. And I don't know if they were doing this on their own. Obviously, they have to get stuff approved through AEW Public Relations. But you're right. I almost seem to lump Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks as examples of being maybe extremely introverted and just not comfortable in front of us or larger media conglomerates, giving interviews and telling people just how good their product is and giving them a reason to watch. Kel, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a fundamental problem within AEW, more so than like the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. Because on the infrastructure of the company, a lot of this was built off of being the elite and having that background access and weekly and showing people what they were doing backstage and funny little skits. And that's what endeared Hangman to whatever we think Hangman is now, being the elite and like showing that backstage of Hangman and him being the young guy that they brought into the Bullet Club and then now bringing over. And a lot of the character that they built with him was built there. The funny Cody stuff and all these things. I remember MJF when Cody, he was like super friendly to Cody and friendly to everyone around Cody. And then Cody would turn around and he's flipping people off and being an asshole. Like that character was built a lot through that, right? So once that went away, they lost a ton of that personability, like that access. And the void was never filled. And honestly, it's when they started getting people from other promotions, from the WWE, from New Japan, and they market themselves as, and this is just from an outside perspective, the anti-WWE. You don't have to be on the road all week, 5 days a week. You can do the show, maybe record a promo, backstage promo for us to run on Friday and take your ass home and be with your family and still get paid. You don't have to do a ton of media obligations and all the Make-A-Wish stuff and all these, television spots and sell Cricket wireless and snap into a Slim Jim. You don't got to do all that. You don't have to be out there. Like, we're going to be anti that. You can make the money you can make over there without doing all of the nonsense. But what they didn't realize is all that nonsense is done for a reason. And it stifles these guys. Excellent. But how do you then go back and tell them? Because that's what you pitch them on. Well, how do you get Okada instead of WWE? Well, Okada, we're going to let you be Okada and just wrestle in the ring. And we're not going to force you to do Nakamura type stuff and, learn English if you don't want to learn fluid. Okada speaking English is hilarious. But like, we're not going to force you on that. Like, we're not going to put that pressure on you to do these things. How do you get Ospreay? And he said it openly. Well, you let him live in the UK. You let him come and do his shows. You let him still work the indies. WWE is like, no, what the hell? We're lending our big stars out somewhere else. We're going to make you a star and you're going to be our star. Like, so they wanted to be anti that so much that now it's kind of hindering them. But how do you then tell the talent that you recruited for these reasons, yo, by the way, now, you know what? We kind of have to do a little bit of a house show loop because we got to get into different cities and different markets. We got to get these kids and these families on lower price tickets to be able to see your face, like to just get familiar with you guys. And then when we go to these towns, we got to do the meet and greets. We got to put you on TV. You got to do the morning news station. Or, you got to do the radio station, the rock and roll station. And you got to do this and that. And they're just like, this schedule became a lot more hectic. You paying me more? Like, you put more bread in my pocket? Because when you signed me, you said none of this. So it's such a weird thing to wheel back because that is what they're built on. And fundamentally, I don't think Tony ever built this to make money. He built this as a fan and he wanted the product and he wanted his favorite toys. But now, my guy, you're in the business of making money and you got to do something. I'll be damned. Like, his dad ain't telling nobody on the Jaguars they don't have to speak to media. I don't care who it is. Travis Hunter, your ass is over here. We're doing whatever we want. You're cutting these Jacksonville Jaguars used car commercials. We're doing whatever we say. Like he built it to have fun, and sooner or later you get too big to have fun, and it's time to grow up.
That's an excellent point. Cam, go ahead.
And let me say this on the flip side, though, so people don't think this is just AEW bashing hour. Ain't no goddamn way CM Punk's doing an interview for the rest of the year.
No. Fuck ain't doing shit.
Ain't no goddamn way.
Punk's going to Saudi and disappear when he come back.
Listen, man.
That is correct.
You're not getting the word out of him that ain't on TV, boy. No, sir.
Nope. Nah, he ain't answering that. And don't bring it up in a presser. Oh.
I feel like I have to say this. Oh, this is kind of controversial. I'll say it anyways. Shayna Baszler being one. I'm trying to think who else. Sonya Deville being another. Dakota Kai being another. LGBTQ getting released from the WWE. And you mentioned CM Punk having to keep his mouth shut probably for the remainder of 2025. With there's smoke, there's fire.
I think Shayna's the most. I've said this on social media. I've got to tell her twice. I think Shayna Baszler is one of the most complete wrestlers that they've had in forever. I love her style, love her attitude. I think that everybody has like that tipping point. I think she was Bianca Belair's tipping point in that Bianca was starting off as a face and Bianca, the EST, and she could do all that stuff. Shayna looked at that girl and said, yeah, you're bigger than me. You're stronger than me. You're faster than me. What you going to do when you can't breathe? And I was like, oh, all right, here we go. I think she's fantastic. You're not the first person, Jesse, to bring this up, but listen, that is exactly what the hell happened. I can't say, and of course, like, I'm not making excuses for anybody. I like to kind of believe these things don't have that kind of fit, right? I think Dakota Kai, if they told you she was 24, you'd believe that she was 24, but she was what, 34, 35?
Yeah.
So.
Right now. I think Sonya Deville's death sentence sounds so bad. I don't want to be that extreme. Sonya Deville's career trajectory changed when they signed Ronda Rousey. Like what they were presenting with Sonya, MMA fighter and could do all this. Then you signed the most famous and at one point the best female MMA fighter. So what is she supposed to do? You know? But again, the Shayna one, if there's any validity into any of that, it's with Shayna. Because I just think Shayna could do every single thing they needed her to do. When called upon and allowed to, she did that. So it's tough out here, man. It really is.
Yeah, she's in her early 40s also. Go ahead, Kyle.
And that's, I wasn't going to say it. But yes, and especially, with women, that specific thing has always been a detriment to a woman in wrestling.
Yep.
Ahead,
they're just skewing younger. And honestly, the company, because now it's a company, right? Like you can't just blame everything on Vince. The company has let the world know where they lie. Like they're not hiding
big
anything,
time,
right? Like they're arm in arm with who they're arm in arm with, and Linda's in charge of education. So
we're
not judging her job.
As somebody who really tries to like give the benefit of the doubt, if you follow me on social media, I've been very, very clear about her involvement with education. I work in education, for 15 years, basically since I graduated college almost 20 years ago. And hey, what is she doing? What are they doing? Oh my God. You're not qualified to have this job and you're doing a very bad job of it. And, all the closest people to me work in education. So watching like them being dumb, outright affecting how my friends and family are going to eat, it's not great. It's not great.
No, she's the worst education booker in the history of bookers.
Accurate.
Like she's like it's not great, right? So like we know where as a family and a company and all of that stands, and we're in a world now for the foreseeable future where people don't have to pretend to be anything they're not, because you can be whatever you want to be, even if that is bigoted, if that's biased, even if it's whatever, without repercussions in this current world. So if you want to cut 5 LGBTQ athletes, you can do so because it's not 2021, right? Like the outpourings not necessarily going to affect your sponsors.
Yeah.
Because those sponsors have aligned and let you know where the hell they are.
Mm-hmm.
So you can cut all these people and Slim Jim money coming in. Prime money's coming in. Like I've seen
money.
what Logan was in January. You know, like I know who bus Logan was on. Like that Prime money ain't slowing down. Like, so as long as you know where your money's coming from and you can be honest and open and everyone's on the same side, they can do things like this. So, which is why it was intriguing to see R-Truth get re-signed, because I know Truth has been there for a long time. Talking about age, a lot of the other cuts were age related. The age and how much we're paying you makes no sense. We got young people, we're going to pay them less and let them shine and build new stars, which fundamentally business-wise is a great way to go about things. But bringing R-Truth back and caving, that was as much as R-Truth's a great guy, and also R-Truth is a black superstar who really has been treated less than and dumb. And we want the best for him. And I can't believe after he dumped himself down for you, you would do him like this. And, you know, it didn't get Bobby Lashley back as a black athlete who was really great in his 50s. And then there was something very special about R-Truth. So watching that, it was like, okay, there's still somewhat of a voice of, you can't do everything you want because sooner or later it will affect your bottom line.
Yeah.
And R-Truth showed that, like, yeah, no, like, if we want to cut shit off, like, it'll affect your bottom line. It'll affect the talent on the roster coming back or re-signing or your locker room. Everything isn't just numbers, right? Like he's not a name on a paper where you're just like, oh, we pay him too much. He's 50.
That's the biggest
the
difference.
Talent revolted.
With him, that's the biggest difference, though. I remember Bianca telling me that Shayna was her mother's favorite wrestler. There's something about your locker room and how they feel about the people around you, which is not to say people didn't love Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler, you know, you name it, but there's a different type of affection, I think, for an R-Truth. In that he's been around forever. He's worked with everybody. You never hear a bad word about him. And, you know, a lot of wrestlers, especially from this generation, are wrestling historians. So they know Ron Killings. They were watching TNA. Like, there's an actual... It's great to be respected. It's fantastic to be loved. Being revered is something different. Like, it is... It trumps those other things in that they hold you on a level above the people they spend time with outside of work. It's different, man. Kel sees me. I get all goofy when I'm around Andreas because I think he's the coolest. And it's a different thing. But yeah, like Truth is revered and appreciated and respected in a way that I don't know if anybody else can come through there and have that same effect. Somebody they let go for budget reasons or whatever. He occupies a very unique space. And like when you got the Miz unfollowing WWE on social media, Mr. WWE, Mr. Perfectly built for WWE and all the trappings that come with that, saying, you know what, that's not cool what y'all did. For somebody like that to, and who knows, but to potentially risk their standing with the company that they do everything with and everything for, those kind of things stick out in a different way.
So eye-opening. Go ahead, Kel.
No, just doubling down. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like there's something special there. And I'm glad they have at least an ear to the street to listen to.
Because with our host, he's an 8th grade United States history teacher. Cam, he's been in education probably as long as you have. We get the 411 about Department of Education and everything that's happening all the time. In his state alone, they are defunding public schools and throwing money towards private schools.
Yeah. I listen.
So,
I live here, man. My
mhm.
girl I dated forever just became an elementary school principal, and so it's really interesting. You get the highest thing that could ever happen to you. Now you got to deal with these motherfuckers. It's getting in the way of it all. So yeah.
John, always appreciate you. Tim, appreciate you in the chat as well. Absolutely. I'm going to go to the Patreon stuff before we hit this question, which is kind of hard hitting again before we hit with something soft. A special birthday today outside of Tupac. Patreon.com/Top Rope Nation is where you can find us. Again, this is a free show. This is the type of quality you can expect on my show on a weekly basis. I'm going through ECW 1995 in real time and loving every minute of it. Cactus Jack, the 1995 Wrestling Observer newsletter, promo of the year, and for good reason. If you go through the weekly TV, you will understand just how effing phenomenal Mick Foley was on the microphone and how he drew you into buildings and just how you felt his energy. You had so much sympathy for him and his character and also his opponents too. Just an amazing talent. And this is before he hit the WWE. This was in between WCW and WWE, where you could totally find just where he came from. We're hitting to Steve Austin here in about 3 months. You can find out where the Steve-mania came from and how much beef he had with Hulk Hogan. Kel wrote about Hulk Hogan at Yahoo Uncrowned. We'll talk about that later too. And then it goes straight to his Stone Cold character in 1996. You get that in real time, $5 a month. However, a 7-day free trial going on right now. And that's where you, again, can hear all of my content, ad-free stuff, Ryan's BR reports after every PLE, the moment that thing is over. Exceptional quality content. Again, $5 a month. Just thank you so much for your support. Hit the like and subscribe button here at Top Rope Nation. That also helps us in the algorithm. All right, here is the serious question. Kel, let's start with you. In terms of non-surface level topics in professional wrestling, is there something that you want to be brought to the forefront just a little bit more often these days? A little more education on, especially with your wrestling stereotypes way back when.
Yeah, man, there's so much in pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. I would say not even to dig like too deep, because a lot of the race issues, the gender issues, everything that's kind of like in the forefront. I think, like, especially now, like, fans are somewhat educated on what's going on there, but something that affects them a lot that is just a trickle down of what's plaguing our country and economically in general, but we really see it highlighted like we do a lot in pro wrestling. It's kind of a magnifying glass on culture, is the just capitalistic greed of pro wrestling is killing the independent scene. And I understand, like, casual fans may not understand this, but that independent scene is the heartbeat of pro wrestling. And it has been for a very long time. It's what does the checks and balances for a company like WWE. It's what keeps them honest. It's what makes them put together a good program. It's what shows fans this is what they're missing, and this is the level of accountability you have to hold them to. It's why we have guys like Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. These people came up through this independent machine. Those before them, Brian Danielson in AEW, the John Moxleys, the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. These people are still around into their late 30s, 40s, 50s because they came up through this, because it's such a heartbeat of pro wrestling that you can't even remove them in their 50s, because fans have that attachment to them still for what they did in 2001, 2002. Someone in the chat earlier dropped in Nigel McGuinness, Brian Danielson. Nigel McGuinness just came back and got a huge pop because people love him from what he did back then. That is still in the veins of professional wrestling. And when these people are gone and retired, I fear we're not going to have that next wave, because I'm sure it's done with intentions. I can't even say the best of intentions. It's done with intentions. But programs like WWID, they're, even AEW hiring people super young before they even hit the indies, and then controlling kind of what indies they can go to a degree. There's just talents that aren't building that lore. They're not building that connection. Being around WrestleMania week here in Vegas and just seeing GCW's trying their damnedest to stay around and have this and keep that feeling going. Tickets are $120 to GCW. I caught my first GCW show in a barbecue shack in Dallas. It was $10. Nice. I saw Mick Foley and Regal go around back to scout people. Right? Like, I think it was Progress versus GCW. It was crazy. I saw Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ricochet. Before Ricochet was signed, like right after he took the mask off from me and Prince Puma, it was kind of in flux before he went to NXT. I saw that. I saw Matt Riddle versus Keith Lee on that show. There was so many independent people that we saw come through NXT. Saw, PWG, which is running shows, but that's something where it's like, is PWG going to be next? Are they the next promotion that's kind of going to have to fold or sell to someone? Down in Mexico, AAA just sold to the WWE. Like, so many things are getting absorbed and becoming corporate, and we're losing that heartbeat on a fundamental lower level, and it's going to hurt pro wrestling, because as people get cut because of time, or in WWE or AEW just becoming crowded, and they don't want to unrightfully hold these people there without something to do. I feel like AEW cuts people kind of like for just reasons. like they kind of have a heartbeat sometimes, but still a cut is a cut is a cut. And it's just like, damn, when I look at someone who I've interviewed several times, an amazing person like Sonny Kiss, where it's just like, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, you kind of wasted 5 years of Sonny's life, where Sonny could have been a huge thing on the independent wrestling. One of my favorite wrestlers from independence and ROH, Dalton Castle. I don't see Dalton at all anymore. Just sitting there, like doing, like, you can say what you want, but AEW buying ROH, WWE buying all these little things, and just killing that independent culture and what people could have been, and creating those legends and that lore and that loyal fan base that follows you is such a detriment to pro wrestling. And it scares me to think where pro wrestling will be in 10 years. Because if you're not with the WWE, if you're not with the AEW, you may not be anywhere. In the UK as well, shout out to John. NXT crushed the UK independents. Progress is probably the only one still go. Like
Rev Pro.
Like it's one of those things, but they're not what they used to be. Because so many people signed at 19, 20, 21 and just sat there, and they didn't have a chance to become Prince Devitt's, right? Like, you don't have a chance to become what Sheamus was, Drew Mack, all these people, even Ospreay. Like, you're not going to get the legend of Ospreay from when he was 20 through 24 years old and why he was the biggest name and biggest free agent. You're not going to get that. I look like at kids like Private Party, who now, depending on what reports you believe, may be free agents. Private Party should have been the Young Bucks. But instead of doing PWG, doing shows like ROH when they were more independent, doing these things, they were just in AEW, doing matches and programs every now and then, but then being shelved. And all. They don't have that fandom to go around with them to continuously keep them propelled and make sure they're okay. They don't. They didn't get to build these things. And it's crushing. And there's something to be said when making a little paycheck and going to NXT or going to Evolve now for them in their developmental scale, or signing to AEW when you're 17, and that shit's cute. But 5 years later, when you're cut at 25, you're like, bro, I don't have a following. Everyone who followed me stayed at AEW. like you just wasted 7 years, 5 years. Like that's crushing, man. So I think that's really a glaring problem I noticed Mania weekend, where it's like the independent fans are still there and they're trying to support, but for the culture is $125 ticket. GCW the next night's $100 ticket. Like you're spending $700 on independent shows. I used to spend $100, if that. I remember seeing Cam even in LA a couple years ago. People were cheersing. Cam's giving one of his amazing legendary speeches. Doing backflips off of doing backflips off of the houses. Like the wrestling ring was literally right there. Mm-hmm. Like, and it was $15, if that. And if you get there halfway through, you just stumble in. It was free after drinking. Like that culture is slowly going, and $700 for a weekend of indie shows just because they have to keep pace with the conglomerates now in town. That shit sucks, man. Like I went to South by Southwest, and I know Cam is down in the area. That's his stomping grounds.
Austin.
I went like one of the last years. There was still music and it was still rocking, and you can kind of get in everywhere, and it was great. It was like 2013. I think that might have been the last year when it was like cool. And then corporations came in and shit changed, and it's never been the same. And I think music hurts for that, in the cultivation of how you find music, and can people actually even perform after going viral. They don't have to do festivals to go down there and make a name for themselves. And pro wrestling, I think, is going to be along that same wavelength, where it's like, damn, man, you're killing what fed pro wrestling. And
great points.
I hope that turns around.
Cam, what do you got?
So, I was in Tampa for the Royal Rumble, kind of when the Vince McMahon stuff really escalated right before that. And, we went in there, a couple of us, we asked what I thought were the appropriate questions at the time. I think for me, I just want to see this thing become safer for the most vulnerable people, right? We got a thing coming up. I haven't even talked to Kel about it, but you'll see it in a couple of days. It'll all make sense. We got something coming up in a couple of days about WWE LFG. And I interviewed Booker going into WrestleMania LA. I'm a big fan. Texas guy, WCW guy. I love things about Booker. And one of my closest friends was one of his students. And she ended up being let go because somebody was showing up to their trainings and shows and stalking her. And the decision was made to let her go. And even before I interviewed Book, I reached out to her and made sure it was cool, because these things, that's sensitive. Like if it wasn't good for her, I wouldn't have done it. I would have figured something else out. But, she knows that I support her through what she does. She just got married. I gave them $50 for a coffee maker, or what kind of coffee they drinking. But those are the homies over there, right? As a matter of fact, Kel, I was with them at your cabana. I went over there and slid with them and kicked it. They just got married. So yeah. But like on that level, you see it. There are people who I was like around at WrestleMania in LA who don't do this job that we do anymore, because they were kind of leveraging that into, hey, I can talk to this woman about this now and try to be comfortable with it because I'm the man over here. Like that stuff has happened. Of course, we see it on the highest levels, but on the lowest levels as well. And it's like, man, I think I always hate the idea of I have daughters, and so I think we should be nice to women. We should just be nice to women. But I will say this, as I've been more tapped into the independent scene down here, there's your Rachel Roses, your High Ons, your Maya World, your Charity Kings, like, Alexis Littlefoot, just you can throw a bunch of names out there. I do look at these women like my sisters, and so to know how difficult the job already is, and then to know that on another level, they got to deal with like scummy promoters who take them out to the Bahamas and expect something out of them to get a good match on the card. And like I said, I don't know Vince McMahon. I never met Vince McMahon, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm placing a standard on the smaller thing and not the larger thing. But the larger thing is publicized. There are people in position who are handling that, but I want none of it to exist, man. I just really wish that, all entertainment, but the things that we deal in can be an easier thing where the best people succeed and they don't have to sell a piece of their soul to get there, So just safety all around, but especially for the women in general, but especially the women coming up, just because if this is a thing you love, nobody should be able to take that love from you with their ulterior motives.
Yeah. No, I mean, both of those are excellent. And I wrote down 6 different ones. I think you've touched on 4 out of the 6 just with your topics alone. My answer for now, and I think it has been an improvement, because I was going to say mental health and just kind of the companies focusing more on that. They're doing a little bit better job of it. You're seeing guys like Eddie Kingston kind of out just speak about his depression and normalizing it with the public and just some of the things they go through. You have to wonder if World Wrestling Entertainment and All Elite Wrestling do a good job with doctors and things like that. I thought about unionization with AEW and WWE, something that Jesse Ventura went to bat for in mid 85, 86, and 87. Of course, it was shot down by the villain himself, Terry Bollea. It's because he was the one on top, and Jesse was fighting for everybody. Unfortunately, again, squashed it, set everything back. I am going to go with CTE. And just the schedules that these performers go through. They're putting their bodies through hell on, now it's 1 to 2 nights a week, sometimes 3 night a week basis. The travel back and forth. Yes, they're getting paid to do this, but what we fail to realize is when you see them on screen going through the motions, and sometimes like these poison ranas, they can go wrong. You got clotheslines of just a simple clothesline or a power slam, or in Steve Austin's case, a pile driver from Owen Hart that goes wrong. And all of a sudden, they have repercussions for the rest of their lives. And now some of this is being highlighted on Dark Side of the Ring. Like Superstar Billy Graham as an example. Some of the hells that he went through after he lost his championship to try to continue to make a career and to get to that hierarchy status. And by the time his prime had passed and he was still injured, Hulk Hogan took 2/3 of his gimmick, made it his own, made it huge. And Billy Graham's just like limping back into the promotion in 1987, hopped up on painkillers, drinking, having problems at home, and barely able to walk, managing the Rock Don Morocco. I think if you, and Cam has talked about this in his articles, humanizing these folks, but also when their career's over, making sure that they're taken care of. You hear a handful of stories that people are taken care of. However, I think it's important that everybody does, because at the end of the day, it's one of the most grueling things from an entertainment perspective that we enjoy. Like the NFL, we're huge sports fans. I think CTE, they're doing the best they can with the helmets these days, and taking care of equipment as well, and making it a little bit more safe. Taking away the old school Ronnie Lott amputating his finger in the early 80s and just going right back out there. some of the Dick Butkus clotheslines and like all those not being penalties. Now, granted, the league might be getting a little bit soft in some of the calls that they make, but again, it's for the own player safety. So the important thing at the end of the day is to, again, separate the human from the entertainer, but also bring to light that their post-career on Earth is very important. They're humans just like us at the end of the day, and we need to normalize that and take better care of them when everything's over. So that's me.
Definitely. Well said.
100%.
Yeah. All right, last topic, and it's a fun one. Happiest of birthdays, because Tupac was to open the show. We're closing the show with Jim Fullington. You may know him as the Sandman. He is turning 62 today. ECW hardcore icon, often imitated, never duplicated. Cam, do you have any special moments or promos or a match of his, just anything to highlight Mr. Jim Fullington today on his birthday?
My favorite thing about the Sandman is when I think he had already left WWE, and he had a podcast, and like his son used to kind of sit on there with him or be around, and maybe his son was impressed that his dad wrestled. Maybe he was impressed that his dad rocked arenas. The most impressive thing he did for his son was be around women who worked in WWE. his son thought it was so cool that his dad was around pretty girls all day. And he just said like how much of a kick he got out of that. So being a hero to your kid for being in the vicinity of good-looking people, that's really cool. Shout out to you. Yeah, man.
I feel like that's Cam's life.
Shout out to Sandman, man. I like it. That's how it works. I'm gonna tell you a funny story later, Kel. Not on the.
That's usually Cam. The people are just amazed, like, yo, Cam, you know this person? Cam, you're around this person?
Yeah,
Cam, you're actually friends with this
person?
Oh,
and my other thing though, like I don't know which SmackDown versus Raw it was. It's like when they introduced ECW, and because of the nature of like the weapon inclusion and the hardcore aspect, he was like the most OP guy in the game because he could do all the cool stuff with the weapons nobody else could do. Shout out to Sandman, man. Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yo,
and hack never happened. He probably liked them checks. Hack never happened.
That's the name that he goes by on a daily basis, by the way. Hack.
Really?
Yeah. That was a neighbor. Yeah, that was a nickname of his when he was a kid. Just stuck with him, and that's what he used in WCW. So it did, but it did not happen. We agree.
I bet them checks were nice though, boy.
So steroids.
I would say mine is not even like a long ago memory because tons of those. Like, I mean, the entrance is iconic. Mine just happened a couple months ago. Cam was in the building. We're chilling. Is now RIP Sabu.
Yeah.
His last match. But at the time, the absurdity of this match, and no one knows it was going to happen. No one knows what's going to go through. And Sabu gets to pop and everything. And the match is kind of getting a little weird because they've thrown Sabu through like 2 things of barbed wire where you're just kind of like, I'm not sure. And then you don't know how this match is going to wrap up. And then enter Sandman hits. And this place, it was at the Palms, WrestleMania weekend. It's late as hell. It's probably 2 a.m., I think this thing is. It's Janela's spring break. Maybe, no, it's like the 9 o'clock show. Still, we're tired.
Yeah, because it was, I think For the Culture was after?
For the Culture was after.
Yeah,
so it's a 9 o'clock show. It ends right before the Culture starts at like 10. So it's like 9:30. This place loses its shit for Sandman. And he comes out, he does everything. He does the beer, does the kendo stick. He's smashing the beer against his head. He doesn't know how to get down to the ring. So they loop the song like 3 times because he can't find the way to get down through the crowd into the thing. So he goes all the way to the left, does it again. Everyone loses their shit again. He's like, wait, the stairs still aren't here. Comes all the way back to the middle. And at this point, security's like ushering him along. He goes all the way to the right side. The music loops again. He's like, fuck it. He has to do the gimmick again. He pounds 6 beers and hits his head at least 40 times before he finds his way to the stairs on the bottom right and into the ring to save Sabu, who's been getting whooped by like an entire crew that came out to jump him. It took a legit 14 minutes to get him from the crowd on the surprise entrance into the ring. And all 14 minutes, the crowd was locked in. Like that, if that doesn't show the impact this man has had, every time the music looped back, everyone was ready. It was just so geeked. And that's that lasting, just like cult persona that he has, and really showed that like his career left a mark on pro wrestling because everyone there was so hyped to see him. I'm not even sure if he took a bump. I don't think he did a move. He just hit someone with the kendo stick, and then the match kind of ended when Sabu got back up to his feet and was able to pin Janela. But it was madness. It was disorganized. It was weird at times. But damn if that didn't feel like prime ECW. Like
Kelly, by the way, who his son thought he was so cool, he got to be around all the time. Oh yeah.
It's man, those guys were rock stars, right? Like there's superstars now in pro wrestling, and that's cool. there was a generation of when these guys were rock stars, and it was edgy to know ECW and to watch. Like growing up in New York, like we were blessed to see ECWs on weekends, and it was like other people were talking about Raw and the Attitude Era and everything, and we were whispering, and WCW was starting to rise and everything, and we were whispering like, yeah, but did you see ECW? Like, did you know? Like, it was the cool kids to do. If your Blockbuster had ECW tapes, you probably lived in the hood. Man. Like you lived in some questionable areas, but needless to say, my Blockbuster had ECW tapes. So it was an interesting time, man. And he was a rock star in that time, and it continues to be that way.
Man, I listen to his podcast from time to time now. Both of his sons are on there too, and he can only remember like 2/3 of the stuff they're talking about. It's kind of funny at the same time, but the
ties back into your whole spiel,
DTE.
Taking care of people after,
exactly. But the host does a tremendous job of reining everything in. I think my two highlights for him were his return to ECW in '99. I just remember seeing the video and the lights go out and the crowd all of a sudden, like the spotlight comes on him, the music hits. That thing shook. You mentioned Jey Uso, which that pop for Jey Uso at WrestleMania was probably 20 times bigger than this one. But to the ECW arena fans on that night in 1999, it just meant everything. Like one of their own came home. And like that moment kind of just lived with me for a long time. I'll watch that a couple times a year. It's just an amazing feeling. Like go back and watch it. You can probably find it on YouTube, Daily Motion, anywhere. My other one is just the athleticism that he had. A dude like 6'2", 6'3", and looked completely out of shape. His top rope leg drop, to me, it might be it's probably in the top 8 in the history of pro wrestling. I mean, a couple steps below Bobby Eaton. Like that guy could move a little bit. He had some damn good athleticism, and while a lot of his matches were a little bit, they were just hardcore garbage matches with weapons, things like that. Like prime example, this match with Cactus Jack coming up, I'm going to be previewing next week, was nuts. Barbed wire replaced the ropes. I think that's what happened to Sabu and Joey Janela, correct?
Yep. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how long it takes to replace ropes with barbed wire. Ooh. It was a little rough. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, they weren't pros at replacing these ropes with barbed wire. It took a good second. Yeah, that ill-advised in 2025 to have barbed wire ropes. Let's just say that.
Correct. And I think the last thing I'll say on this with Joey Styles, like the moment the Sandman won the ECW heavyweight title in May of '95, defeating Shane Douglas, he just said, how does this look in Philadelphia, or how does this look in the professional wrestling landscape to have such a degenerative cigarette smoking common man as our ECW heavyweight champion? This is awful. And that's just the way they portrayed it, but the Philadelphia fans embraced because he was one of their own. So shouts out to Jim Fullington on his, I believe, 60-second.
I'm doing like today. All the jobs at once right now. My student is like, what are you doing? Shout out to Rob and Katie, man. Congrats to Rob and Katie. They are two of the sweetest. They're expecting now Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes. So salute to them, man. Love that for them.
Yeah. The clip where he's talking about Sabu and everything coming like full circle, and then they announced that she's pregnant. It was just amazing. I'm glad it went like viral on Twitter. Like two great
really people, folks, man.
And genuine. Mm-hmm. Like I love that. Like, don't give a damn what anyone thinks about us. Like, they don't hide a damn thing, but listen, their friends are always their friends. Like, you won't hear a person say anything bad. They were both amazing. Got to talk to them a little bit at Chris Bay's show, and they were there. And Katie wrestled. That was probably her last match before the pregnancy. Now that I think about it, the Chris Bay benefit show.
But the thing that
great
kind of got me going in all this was Comic-Con 2021. My man Chris from Tiger Driver invited me to be on a panel called The Beauty of Black Wrestling. Beauty of Blackness in Wrestling. It's myself. It was Lovely Laveau. It was Faye Jackson. It was Jay Rose, who is now the most famous Indiana Pacers fan in the world. Shout out to Jay Rose. And it was Kaz. And me and Kaz known each other a little bit before, but literally that's the weekend I met Sparks, the first weekend I hung out with MJF, who's a crazy person. But that's kind of how Sparks thought of my name, and Kaz and Shoemaker thought of my name when I kind of started with the Ringers. So yeah, man. And listen, the reason I bring that up, Katie was front and center at that panel, listening to us talk about the beauty of blackness in pro wrestling. So salute to Katie, man. And she's good people. She is.
Absolutely love that. Congratulations to Rob Van Dam and Katie Forbes. And I might as well mention it now. Rob Van Dam is still my number one bucket list item for an interview one day. Hands down. Love RVD. Always
Come to
have.
Vegas, he ain't hard to find. He's out all the time.
Oh, I'm definitely aware. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reach out to my external connections here in the next week, and I got to make it happen. Just this once. I've been saying it for 3-4 years. So yeah, shout out to them. Congratulations.
Some people would say Mania's in Vegas again next year. So
it is
come through. I'm sure that's not a hard interview to get. You could come hang out. We'll have the Cabana Part 2 next year for all the homies. If night 1 of WrestleMania. If you guys don't get tickets, you guys want to come and hang out, I will have cabanas again at Stadium Swim. Cam had himself a time at the cabanas, so did everyone else. It was an amazing way to spend night 1 of Mania. We're going to run it back. Yeah, I love when stuff is in my city. I love hosting and being the host of hosts. So yeah, if you guys are in Vegas, it is an amazing place, amazing place for WrestleMania. I'm sorry, New Orleans, but I'm not sorry. It is great to have it on the home on the home field again.
They gave us a 2-night SummerSlam here in Minneapolis instead of WrestleMania that could have happened here. So
I'm not gonna lie, Minneapolis would have been brick cold. I'm also not sorry for you, Jesse. You guys
can remember
SummerSlam. You guys are all right.
I know. I mean,
it was
just
probably
been nice.
40 degrees, April 20th.
No, it was in the 60s. Climate change has become a thing now. All of a sudden here in Minnesota, the last 2 winters have been mild. So, contrary to what you believe, is if you push a Mania back to the middle to the later portion of April, weather's become a little bit more acceptable. But hey, again, 2-night SummerSlam. All right,
60 degrees is low key cold. I'm not gonna lie to
you. Coming from the warm climates that the two of you come from, I completely understand that completely. So
yeah, it was 60 degrees. No lie told. That's
warmer than Philly.
Yes, the average is 54 though.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it back. I will not bash Minneapolis anymore. You guys have decent weather.
Yeah.
And targets, apparently. Decent weather and targets.
We do have that. If Mania were its normal time of year, end of March, yeah, it's a little suspect. Then you would be hitting the 40s. Yeah, maybe 30s.
Yeah, it'll be 90 degrees out here in Vegas. So, pack a swimsuit if you guys go.
Oh, sold. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm almost as dark as you guys. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, you come get a tan, join the Baldhood Brotherhood. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the beautiful bald heads. Ricochet will be out here. Nobody will be slapping our bald heads. It'll be a time.
Oh man, yeah. I'll close with this, and I'm gonna let you guys get to your socials. Yeah, with Cam had mentioned Ricochet earlier. And just the character evolvement. It's something that we have talked about ad nauseum here on our show. Just the incredible transformation that all it took was a gimmick change. And for him to kind of go Patrick Bateman, American Psycho in a different way on it. And just to make him more compelling because we knew about the athleticism. Kudos to Trevor Mann and just the work that he's done ever since he has stepped foot in AEW, reinventing himself.
I mean, I've always been a huge Ricochet fan. So it's great to see him pair the character with the in-ring and him and Swerve, that was just magic. So it's talking about MVPs. I know we talked about Hangman and everything, but like Swerve's had one hell of a year or two. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's been different, but no, I'm looking forward to see, AEW has a chance to really do well this summer. WWE is coming down the home stretch. It's been a little weird and clunky after Mania, but hopefully they turn it around and we just have really good wrestling all summer. That's all I want. Let's have really good wrestling on all sides all summer and have fun with it.
Post Money in the Bank, they have done a good job so far. I think kind of regaining a little bit of that momentum that they lost after the Elimination Chamber in between the build-up to that Mania. So, yeah, I think that they can continue it and keep it compelling all the way through.
Agreed.
Kel, On your way out the door, I'll let you go first. Give everybody your socials and where they can find you and projects with Yahoo, etc.
Yeah, all social media, my personal platforms at Kel Dansby, KELDANSBY, on all platforms. You can find my work at Uncrowned on all platforms as well: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Running that for Errol Hawani, the boss over there. You can find my writing, uncrowned.com, writing professional wrestling and boxing, which is great. Part of an incredible staff. We also have MMA writing over there. I'm trying to brush up my writing so I'm as good as Cam, who's trying to be as good as everyone else on the staff. It's been a while. These guys write every day. I'm doing social media every day and getting back into my writing bag. So, man, it's been fun. It's been great. Jesse mentioned, did a nice write-up on Hulk Hogan, which wasn't too nice to him, but I thought it was a nice article and a fun read. So cool stuff like that. It's a platform that lets us use our voices and really highlight our uniqueness. So make sure you guys check out Uncrowned for all of your stuff in pro wrestling and then some of the other combat sports as well. We appreciate you. Jesse, this is amazing. Let's not take as long next time. Let's make this a thing. God. It's been too long.
This may have to be a redo for episode 200.
Yeah, let's go. 25 episodes from now. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. I'm here. It'll be 110 degrees probably here in Vegas still, because it always is. It's around September, right? Look, it's a perfect time. Let's do it.
Yeah, completely sold. I don't know if Cam's got interviews or no, he's probably just got projects he's working on. I was gonna let him give his socials on the way out the door. So see what he can do. I'm just gonna go with mine and see if we can get Cam to close to follow. But
he's always a busy guy. Look at this. He's always the busiest guy.
He most certainly is. John, we appreciate you. This is a completely different flavor, as you know, from a TRN Unplugged perspective. I love being contrarian. We talk about the same WWE, AEW news on a weekly basis, but when it comes to my Patreon show, everything's obscure. And while this wasn't obscure, got to hear a lot of things from a mainstream media standpoint. Like we've been fans our whole lives, over 30 plus years, as you know, John, and a lot of our loyal patrons are as well. So you can find us at patreon.com/TopRopeNation. One last time, that is what I'm going to do. Like, subscribe as well to us at Top Rope Nation, Ryan Drosty, myself, and then Justin Join, of course. We'll be hitting you over the weekend. And then, again, $5, all it is to support against a 7-day free trial where you can hear my exclusive Unplugged shows along with Ryan's TRN Extras. Justin will probably be dropping a show here in the next few months as we get our 50th subscriber, which we're very, very close to. The Meet the Nation is what we're looking forward to, where we interview our patrons and they get to tell their stories about how they fell in love with the world of pro wrestling. So that's what we have down the pipeline. Any closing thoughts at all? I'm not sure if Cam is available right now.
I'm back. I love it. Some of my students are like very understanding. He was really cool. I was like, hey, I'm talking about ECW. I need you to hurry up. No, he was great. Closing statements. Hey, listen, it's really cool. We've talked a few times, Jesse. Yeah. I've always been big into being a part of a unit. When I was with PW Torch, with Travis and Dre doing the East Coast cast, when I was doing the South Congress podcast with my man Peanut, God rest his soul, there's something really cool about being a part of a unit. So to get to do this with Kel, knowing the work that we do together, knowing the stuff that we did in Vegas, it's great to be a part of a team that's so thorough and experienced. And I don't come from this world really of media where these guys do, and they've embraced me. They let me ingratiate myself. So man, doing this with Kel is so great. And I look forward to the next thing. They're gonna fire me next week. Watch. But no, I look forward to the next thing that we get to work on. It's an honor to be a part of the different teams I've been at, and Yahoo being the latest one. We've done some really cool things. We got some really cool things planned. So, stay on the lookout, man. And I pride myself on being a guy who can lift heavy things. Then I go to Facebook and look at Jesse's Facebook with muscles on top of muscles, running marathons, doing Tough Mudders and all that, and he never says a word about it. He just goes out there and does it. So maybe I'll learn humility one day. Maybe that makes you stronger. So yeah.
Work in silence. And I earned those Oscar De La Hoya abs, Kel. It's all on you now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you earn them, I'm buying them. So
yes,
we go get to the same spot. It's all right. 2026, neither of us got a shirt on. You keep doing Tough Murder, and I'll get mine in like a day and a half.
There we go. Oh, that's something to aspire to come April in Vegas when I see you with your shirt off. We're just gonna party it up like it's 1999.
That's it. I'm never gonna have a shirt on again. I'm gonna drop 8,000 on these abs, and we gonna call it a day. Cam got his little shirts with like the cutoffs, and it's like the tiny little singlet joints. You don't be wearing the shirt. It's okay. I'm joining the club. That's it. You just gonna see me with no shirt on ever. 8-pack, real fake looking too. I'm not even gonna try to play it off. This is where we're going. So let it be known. 2025, the last time you see me with a shirt on.
Jacob DeLawrence, do not be a stranger to all of us. That's all I'm going to say to you. Cam socials, that was the last thing.
Oh, yeah. Seahawk, CEEHAWK, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. You can definitely follow the South Congress podcast, South Congress with a K. We still, look, I'll be telling Kel this, and I'll be halfway joking, but we still have not, as a unit, come to like an agreement on my Yahoo interviews being podcast, which I'm not complaining about it. It would just be another cool thing, but something independent from what I'm writing. Next weekend, next Saturday, Ashe Wrestling, headed by my man Darius Lockhart, is having their show Return of the King. And the big headliner of the return of Cedric Alexander kind of to the independent scene, right? I actually interviewed Ashe men's champion Darius Carter last week. And so we'll be putting that out, I think, the 23rd. Just talking about Ashe as an artistic outlet, talking about how inclusive it is and how these different types of wrestlers really do make up what's essential to the independent scene. And he says some really mean things about Kev on stage. So I think everybody will enjoy those. So, yeah.
There it is. So Kel already said it, but Cam, episode 200, where we have a celebration. I think the three of us should just redo this again.
You should redo what?
Episode 200. So 25 episodes from now.
Hey, man, just let me know. I'll find another hat.
It's still going to be a Texas hat.
Oh yeah, it'll be another one. Hey, shout out to my softball team, World Series champions, our college softball team. I didn't go to a single game during my undergrad, and now I love it. It's out there, like in the city. Like my homeboy's house is right outside. Them girls be beating the shit out that ball, and they have won their first college World Series. So salute to the alma mater, man. Yeah,
gotta love that SEC money,
man.
That's what I'm saying. Arch Manning. And then to completely close, we talked about Kevin Durant off air. Is he headed to your actual home, Cam?
Hey, man, I think he is. You know, people kind of know this, but depending on how fast you drive, San Antonio is an hour from Austin. You know, he was here during the big 3 years. He's a student of the game. Mm-hmm. Even though Pop's not there, you know, they had a good relationship. I think it's a chance for him to play with a young team that is focused on winning. So, and just don't go to the Rockets, bums.
It's one of those two, I think.
The Rockets. Oh, but if he went there, it'd be fine. Like salute to him, but don't do it though.
Kel, you want to throw that magic prediction? KD's going where?
Anywhere except the Knicks. So Knicks fans could calm down. Right. No, I think he goes to San Antonio, right? Like him, Wemby. That backcourt with Castle and De'Aaron Fox. Like, I think that's a young team where it gives them a chance at another ring and to kind of, you know, at least compete for another ring. The West is tough, but if he's still who he thinks he is with a healthy Wemby in that backcourt, you can do some things. As long as they don't give up a ton in terms of assets from the bench, they should be fine. And that's a team where I think could do well. And then the Eastern Conference is just going to stink because everyone's in the West. And, you know, we'll see. We'll see if they could be the best team in Texas because Dallas somehow traded their best player and ends up with the number 1 overall pick in a lottery that is not rigged. So
Kel,
we'll see what the Mavericks are.
Can you see the chat?
Let's pop it.
Oh,
Hi, Rosie. She's on an Alaskan cruise with her mother, and so we have not talked today. And so I'm gonna be in trouble when we get off of here. But I'm gonna call you in 1 second, baby. I promise.
They got Wi-Fi on the cruise?
Man,
I need to go on better cruises.
Serious.
Alaskan cruises, British pubs. I mean, this is where people tune in to come see the likes of myself, Cam, and Kel on a Monday afternoon, celebrating Tupac's birthday. Happy birthday up in heaven. So for the two of us, this is Jesse Velasquez. This is your preview. Again, patreon.com/TopRopeNation. Episode 175 is in the books. We will see you on the flip side.